Season's greetings from Channel 9.
ABC preempts its regularly scheduled programming for the following special, brought to you this Christmas morning by Walt Disney World.
Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
And now, here are your hosts.
Okay, welcome to episode 14 of the Retro Disney World Podcast. This is entitled Christmas Around the World. I'm your host, Todd McCartney, and sitting in with me tonight, as always, is JT Cougar.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Brian P. Miles.
Season's greetings from the Keystone State.
Keystone. They always got a signature line. And Mr. Hal Bowers from Florida tonight.
Mele Kalikimaka, everyone.
Yeah, there we go. So we're going to be going through what Christmas was like in the early years at Walt Disney World. And but before we get to that, we got some corrections and comments from last month. And how you had one on the Walt Disney World Globe that we had. Now, we put this up, 7, 8?
I think it was the souvenir episode.
Oh, yeah. That's right. 7, 8 episodes ago or so in our souvenir episode. And you had one, I believe, and JT and I had the chance to buy one, never did recently. But what'd you find out about it?
So just this week on Facebook, some people were talking about it, and lo and behold, there were some folks that actually remembered that that they were for sale in the Contemporary and the Polynesian Resort gift shops. They retailed in 1973 or 1974 for $75.
Wow!
So they all mentioned that they wanted to have one, but it was way too expensive, and I think some of them were even employees, and even with the discounts, it was just a whole lot of money. So plugging that into the old inflation calculator, that comes out to $330 in today's money,
which is close to what they're going for today. Sometimes.
Yeah, so really,
so
if you can get
it was a bad investment. If you
that's
bought
right,
one.
you didn't make any money.
What did a one-night stay in the Contemporary cost then? Do you know?
$27, I want to say.
20,
So you got 3 nights in a hotel for one globe.
A globe. So now look at something at Disney that's what's a Contemporary night stay now?
Depends on the season, but between $400 and $500.
So a $1,200 to $1,500 item. What are you going to buy? That's going to.
Is there anything in that price range?
Those are Rebus Brothers like crystal castles and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
All right.
So how we what about that whole story about the travel agents and stuff?
So it turns out that maybe this whole story about them being given out to travel agencies was actually just a myth that was concocted to inflate the price of those globes on the resale market.
Yeah, and then probably to explain the scarcity.
Right, because they certainly did. We don't have any production numbers, but there certainly was not a lot of them by any means.
Well, the person mentioned that there was an entire shelf of them. I think the problem was they just probably didn't, at that price, they probably did not sell.
No.
So
there's a picture to see the whole shelf of them.
Yeah. Wow,
well, but even if if they sold 1,000 of them, to expect 30, 40 years later for there to be, that many in circulation, it's not like other things. Like as we've talked about the, I'm having a brain fart right now. Hal, what's the name of that outfit that made all the ceramic stuff out west?
Treasure Craft.
All the Treasure Craft stuff that they produced back then. It's in abundance because there was so much of it. With these things, a shelf of them. How many of them survived 40 years?
Right.
And made out of paper the way that they were. Yeah. So
Well, look at like a classroom globe from the 70s. They're not in the best of shape right now either. You know, they are still laying around in schools, believe it or not, that say USSR and all that garbage. So
JT, if you come across another one like we did 2 years ago, well, let's pick that thing up.
Well, there was one on eBay last week. Did you guys see that one?
No, I missed it.
Yeah, they were asking 300 and it didn't have any bids. So.
Would you guys like share custody of it? Like,
we'll split it.
We'd probably
4
split
ways.
it. Yeah, we'd send it back and forth. You know, he'd get Christmas, I'd get Thanksgiving. We'd flip flop it the next year.
I get it in the evenings.
Exactly. Yeah.
We could bring it to our big convention event we're creating. It's
Yeah.
like we can all touch it at once.
Exactly. So.
If we
All
do
right.
that,
Well, moving on from the globe. Now, how you had another item here that a couple people contact us about. You had a comment going back, I think it was last month with the Magic Walt Disney World film.
Yeah, so last month when we were watching the Magic Walt Disney World, I had this recollection of the 1970s of watching the Country Bear Jamboree, and I swore that I remembered Henry the Bear mentioning Pepsi Cola Frito-Lay in the dialogue, but it's literally, it has been since 1979 or 1980 was the last time I saw that. So I could have been just completely making that up in some kind of drug-induced haze. But for several people, Steve Peterson, Carrie Meisner, and Kurt Schemmela actually wrote and said that it was true. It was a real thing. Henry the Bear did say that. And not only did he say that, Kurt actually sent me an MP3 of the actual song. So we'll take a second to it and listen to Pianjo.
Well, it's about time.
Howdy, folks! Welcome to the one and only original Country Bear Jamboree, presented by Pepsi Cola and Frito-Lay, featuring a bit of Americana, our musical heritage of the past. But enough of this chit-chat, yak-yak, and flim-flam. Just refrain from hibernating, and we'll all enjoy the show, because we've got a lot to give.
He's a regular Liberace.
And it plays good, too. And right now, I give you a sorted assortment of executioners of music and song. The 5 Bear Rugs. Plus, Gomer. Get it, boys!
So I was not crazy. I actually remembered it.
Kurt coming in hot.
Yeah, mine's like a steel trap.
Wow.
Rusted shut.
So interesting to hear that. Yeah, pretty cool. So, all right, we had one other thing. Good old Bicentennial Ben is alive and kicking. He tweeted out at us. He was happy to hear that he was remembered. He heard. He must be listening to us, but he heard his name called out in the podcast last month, and looks like he's doing fine these days. So good to hear that Bicentennial Ben is still around. So if you want to tweet at him, by the end of the show, we'll get his Twitter handle and you can say hi to him. So.
Merry Christmas, America, Canada, Europe, and servicemen and women watching around the world. It's Mickey, what's wrong?
I forgot the decorations.
Well, do something right this very minute, because live from the Magic Kingdom in Florida, it's the Walt Disney World Very Merry Christmas Parade.
All right, well, Brian, you have been working for at least 12 months on this episode. This is your thing, the Christmas holiday episode. What have you been putting together, and how we're going to go about starting in 1971, right?
Yeah, well, let's, with the caveat at the beginning, is that none of these will be comprehensive, as we're just kind of giving you a flavor of what was going on in the parks.
Join our stars, Joan London and Ben Vereen. The host with boughs of holly. With Regis Philbin and holiday greetings from around the world.
We wanted to give you a flavor this holiday time of year of what it was like if you had gone to the park in 1971 and from there on out.
Coming your way All the magic and laughter of a Disney Christmas. A holiday peek at Epcot Center's new Living Seas Pavilion. Plus, a behind-the-scenes look at Captain EO starring Michael Jackson. Participating advertisers of the Walt Disney World Very Merry Christmas Parade are Eckert Drugs. When you're in Florida or anywhere in the South, you're close to an Eckert drugstore. For photo processing, prescriptions, or just about anything else you need. And Gaines Foods, makers of Gravy Train and other fine Gaines dog food. Gaines, the company that shares America's love of dogs.
The pristine November 1971 film, you get to see the initial Christmas decorations that were up just along Main Street, USA. Nothing else in the park was decorated. And it was the garland across the street and some wreaths and some holly and bows at places. But we'll begin by talking about the most famous thing and longest lived thing that is done in the parks, and that is the Candlelight Processional.
Merry Christmas! Lots of people going to Florida choose a rent-a-car company by comparing rates.
Hello, what's your rate? What's your rate? Yeah, what's your rate?
But these days, everyone offers low rates in Florida, so it pays to compare services.
What do you get for that? What do you get? What do you get?
Hertz offers computerized driving directions, 24-hour road service, and there's never a drop-off charge in Florida. So come to Hertz. The services add up, but your bill won't. Hertz, you don't just rent a car, you rent a company.
And for those of you who've seen it, experienced it in the last 20 years, you will have experienced it in Epcot, in the America Gardens Theater in front of the American Pavilion and World Showcase. And it is a show that usually has a celebrity narrator and a choir made up of Disney cast members who perform portions of the story of Christmas. And there's musical moments in it that are acted out. And the whole show's I guess about 45 minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's been. I've only sat through it a couple of times. I catch it all the time, but I only did the whole business where we get the dinner package and sit through it a couple of times. So the Candlelight Processional, which is still very popular, it has its roots actually at Disneyland in 1958 was the first year that they did it. And when it was done in Disneyland and later, in 1971, they started it at the Magic Kingdom when we opened here in Florida. It actually involved a procession that came down Main Street, and they would fill in front of the train station, looking out towards Town Square and down Main Street, and would perform this. The cast members would form like a human Christmas tree.
That just doesn't sound safe. It sounds like a
human Christmas tree.
It sounds
human
like a
Christmas
cheerleader.
We have some
triangle.
pictures we can tweet out. Most of them are in black and white, but we have some pictures we can tweet out and post on the site to kind of give you the idea. They do the same thing now on the risers, except it's not as tall and convincing as it was when it was at the Main Street Theater, because the America Gardens Theater isn't laid out like that. But the early years at Magic Kingdom in Florida involved 1,000 performers. So I don't know how many cast members they had at the time, and what outside groups as far as like high school choirs and stuff they worked in there. But the early years when they did it at the Magic Kingdom, it involved 1,000 performers, and they performed it in the Magic Kingdom from 1971 through 1992. And normally it was done a few nights, 1, 2, sometimes 3 nights. In fact, the one year I had in my notes that they did it like the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of the month. And then they would have a celebrity narrator. One of the famous early pictures from the Magic Kingdom is Rock Hudson. In fact, there's a website, we'll have to put a link up to it, that lists every celebrity narrator they had until they moved it in 1993 to Epcot Center. And they moved it to World Showcase, where they began performing it in the America Gardens Theater, replacing another show that was there that we'll touch on. But they wanted to allow for more nights and more people to see it.
Going back to the the celebrities? Were these B level celebrities, or were they? What were they getting?
It was a mix because you would get. I mean, I don't know that Rock Hudson was ever really a B level celebrity. Just like today, you get Neil Patrick Harris and Whoopi Goldberg do it every year.
Right.
But then you also get lesser people. I mean, and back then, a lot of times you had Disney stars like Dean Jones and guys like that.
Kurt Russell,
Shields and Yarnell.
Shields and Yarnell were busy being babies.
That's right, they were.
Or polishing that act when they could have been.
Yeah, to give you some perspective, in 1975 it was December 20th and 21st. In 83 it was December 10th and 11th. When they moved it to Epcot in 93, the first year they did 15 nights with 2 performances each night. The following year in 1994, Epcot 94. It was 30 nights with 2 performances. So I mean, the show went from being a couple nights to 30 performances to 60 performances
In just 1 year.
In a couple of years. Yeah, in a couple of years they moved it that way.
So I'm looking at a list here. So Dean Jones did it twice.
Yeah,
which is pretty something. Howard Keel. Why am I? That's like not that name is not ringing a bell to me at all.
I know I've heard it, but I'm lost.
McLean Stevenson in 1989.
I think Keel was he was a Showboat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. A lot of times they had like Broadway and musical theater people.
Okay.
So.
Makes sense.
Oklahoma as well, and he was also looks like he was also in Dallas.
Walter Cronkite in 1988. That would have been a good year.
Big one.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
And
Walter Cronkite.
George Kennedy in 1991.
I would have loved to have seen that.
That would have been amazing.
Who's still alive, by the way?
Some highlights.
I can. Okay, Rock Hudson, Cary Grant. Rock
Cary
Hudson
Grant.
again. Dean Jones. Joseph Campanella.
Yeah, Joe Campanella.
Okay.
Rock
Hudson again.
What?
Ross Martin.
Well, you get him once. You get him on like a 3-shot deal, right?
Yeah, Perry Como.
Oh, that would have
been Mr. Christmas.
Yeah. Then Rock Hudson again, 4-timer. And
Ross
then
it's like Steve Martin on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, James Hampton and Darren McGavin.
Darren McGavin.
Ooh,
The Love Boat,
there's
right?
a trivia where
Yeah.
it's his famous.
No.
No.
Darren McGavin was the dad in Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
Okay. Wait, what year did he do it? Does it say?
1981.
Oh, when was Christmas Story?
There's the question. I feel like it was like 83 or something. 82.
Yeah.
Let's look that up real quick.
It's also Bill
The
Madison.
year I was born, so.
It was 83. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So he did it 2 years before a warm up to Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat and Shirley Boone in 82.
Pat Boone.
And his wife, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Then Joseph Campanella in 83. Rock Hudson again in 84 for the fourth.
He's the Rock. That's why.
That's right.
Always count on him.
He didn't live much longer, so he didn't do it again.
Yeah.
Howard Keel in 85 and 86. Dean Jones again in 87. Walter Cronkite in 1988. McLean Stevenson in 1989. Probably coming fresh off of that his big show Hello Larry.
Yeah.
Alex Trebek, 1990.
Paula Zahn, 1992.
How about that?
Paula Zahn. Isn't she on television now or something?
She was like CBS, the morning show back then. She was like she was the weekday morning show on CBS back then.
There we go.
So these were all at Epcot, or when did it? What year did you say it started at
Epcot? Still
again?
Magic Kingdom.
This is all Magic.
Because
okay.
once they would just have one person every year. Once they go to Epcot, it was obviously 4 and 5 weeks of different people who would come in and be guest narrators. So.
Who's like the ultimate though? Who's done the most? Because you said there was like 30 shows one year. Like who did? And it was that like one person did all 30 shows?
No, what they do is they bring in. I mean, the way they do it now, and presumably the way they did it then, was they have one person per week. One person comes in and does the shows.
I want to know who's the Iron Man though that did the most.
I think it's got to be Rock Hudson.
The original had to be Rock Hudson. These days, I mean, Whoopi Goldberg and Neil Patrick Harris have been doing it every year now for.
But they do one show, right, or two?
No. They come and do it. They do a week. They do it. It's what is it? Like they do. Yeah, they do it like Thursday through Sunday or something. I think they do it.
That's the same time that they record the. Don't they record the actual parade too around that time? The one that gets broadcast.
They start. It's basically the month of December. They start the beginning of December. and there's usually, I think there's like 8 different guest narrators over the course.
It's
they have
a big
the schedule
decent
out.
number.
You can go Google it and look at it. It's
Yeah.
So that's the Candlelight Processional. It still goes on today. It's become a much bigger deal. You can buy dinner packages with it to guarantee seating. People line up for hours beforehand to get into the theater and see it, especially when there's very popular celebrity narrators. They have a rotating section these days of 10 or 15 people, I think, that come in over the course of the month and fulfill the duties. So the Candlelight Processional, which began in 1958 in Disneyland, it's a Walt Disney original, lives on today.
Ah, that's great. Just in case you didn't get the message from that, Mickey Mouse is coming to town. In fact, he'll be in our parade, which is now at the starting position.
And we'll blow the whistle and march them out right after this.
Introducing a new, longer-lasting Energizer.
The new Energizer AA battery. It's supercharged.
It's new, the longest-lasting Energizer ever. No battery in the world can outlast it. Now, radios play 14 hours longer than before. Now, 48 more flash pictures than before.
It's supercharged.
The new Energizer AA. No battery in the world outlasts it. It's supercharged.
Welcome back to Walt Disney World's very Merry Christmas Parade. And just where is this parade? Well, it's winding its way through Frontierland. In just a few minutes, it'll be on Main Street, USA, right in front of our cameras.
These days, everybody knows Christmas starts the first week of November in Walt Disney World. And in Disneyland, they start to decorate the parks pretty much as soon as they put away the Halloween decorations. Everything's out. But back in the early years, that was not how it was. In 1975, for example, if a brochure from 75, Christmas was a 15-day event. It started on December 20th and ran through January 3rd. Most of the celebrations at that time focused on live name entertainment, where they would have a schedule of people who would come in and perform, like Casey and the Sunshine Band or the Arthur Hurley Band. Country music stars Marilyn Sellers and Bob Sanders performing their hits One Day at a Time and Mountains in the Morning. So if you were a fan of those folks, you would come and see them perform in the park. And that was a lot of what went on with the Christmas entertainment back then. The garland I mentioned, if you look at that pristine 71 film that we have, the garland was across Main Street, was strung up from the very first year, 1971. And it lived on until 2012. 2 years ago, it was retired in favor of wreaths with a candle in the center of them that are just hung from the light posts on the side. And the reason for that change is because when they designed the Festival of Fantasy parade floats, the dragon was too tall and would have ripped down the garland. Oh. So they had to. It also, if you're, this is my personal thing, I actually think it looks nicer because you get a nice shot up Main Street towards the castle, which the garland would obstruct it for 2 months when they used to have it up. So that's one of the reasons that they made the change was the parade, which, speaking of parades, in the Magic Kingdom, they had a variety of parades that they would run during the holiday season, but just for the holidays. And of course, again, keeping in mind that the holidays for them was usually mid-December through New Year's. None of this like starting in November stuff. But they had the late 80s, early 90s, they had a Mickey's Christmas Cavalcade, which was a character parade. Back in the 75 one, they ran a nighttime performance of America on parade. So that was running. They would just run the daytime parade. They would run it at like a special nighttime performance of it. And in the 80s, they had one called Fantasy on Parade, which was a Christmas themed parade. And I guess back then, how they did not do fireworks every night. So during the Christmas time, one of the big things was if the Magic Kingdom was open until midnight, there would be a nighttime parade and fireworks.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I like that.
The other thing that that was pretty big part of the Christmas celebrations has been the stage shows. I picked up some information on some of them. in the 80s, they had Mickey's 'Twas the Night Before Christmas show, which they performed in Tomorrowland on the stage there, which eventually, it was started running in the 80s and eventually ran until they started Totally Tomorrowland Christmas, which is the bizarre but oddly beloved show that runs today with Stitch and a variety of other people. And what's the girl's name? Haley Comet, right? I think that's her name.
Oh, yeah.
She's the star of the show. Back then, though, they also had a Castle Forecourt show, which was the Sparkling Christmas Spectacular. And that was ran in the 70s and 80s. And it was Donald and Uncle Scrooge telling their version of the Scrooge story for Christmas. And Fantasyland had its own show called Fantasy Follies that starred characters. And
that was held on that.
They had
the retractable stage we had talked about.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. That's where it was back there.
Right.
And in terms of lighting, just as a side note, they really didn't do a lot of that until the Castle Lights debuted in 2007, which I can't believe this is the 8th year for the Castle Lights, but so they only started doing that, lighting the castle and all in 2007. But starting in 1984, they changed one of the attractions for Christmas. Who wants to tell me what that attraction was?
Go, How, you got your arm up.
Country Bear Jamboree.
Yeah, they would change that over to the Country Bear Christmas special. You can watch the whole show online. But it was something that they started doing to generate, an added attraction at Christmas time to draw people in. And that show ran from 1984 through 2005. And I actually always really enjoyed that show. I used to go, my trips were usually during Christmas time. So I always enjoyed seeing that show. And they stopped doing it in 2005. Now,
and that is a shame. The highlight, I think, for me was Big Al, like in the Baby New Year, like diaper thing. That was a huge laugh.
You really should watch the whole show on YouTube. It was really well done. To the point where even the side, the mounted heads on the side.
Yeah, Melvin, Buff, and Max. Yeah.
The one got his own Rudolph red nose. I mean, it was a really, really fun show and a nice seasonal change for what could become a tired attraction, an animatronic stage show.
Are there any other attractions that was ever done to? We all know Carousel Progress always ended with Christmas and New Year's, but is there any other attraction that actually was modified through the years just for a holiday season? Or is it a rarity?
Well, it's becoming more common now.
Yeah.
Obviously, in Disneyland, they do the Haunted Mansion holiday overlay. They do the Small World holiday overlay, largely because that's a commuter park. It draws local crowds, not so much resort vacationers. And so they change things throughout the year to try and boost attendance and keep people coming. Over here, I'm not familiar with it other than the Jingle Cruise, which they started last year. Right? Last year was the first year?
2 years.
So we could do a Space Mountain, a Santa's Sled. We could do Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Christmas Bean or something.
Yeah, the Christmas Bean.
Christmas Bean.
What I'm really hoping for is Kwanzaa Manjaro Safaris.
Kwanzaa
Manjaro. Yeah.
Hey, that actually fits.
So the reason that it ended was that the show to set up was $50,000, and then to revert it back to its original form after Christmas was $50,000. And someone working on the budgets decided that was $100,000 that they didn't need to spend in their division, that it didn't generate enough. If you listen to enough Tony Baxter or read these other Imagineer books, you know that everything at Disney is weighted on how many people come through the turnstile for this attraction. And when we change something, how many more people come through the turnstile. And it was just not generating enough additional people coming into it for them in their minds with their pencils and their calculators to say it was worth spending the $100,000 a year to change it over. I have been told before when I've brought this up from people that don't discount that it might not return someday, that it might not be something that they try again. So I would like to see that happen.
Right there. That's great. And of course, anyone will be able to come and visit the Living Seas Pavilion starting January the 15th.
That's right.
And you'll all get to see more of the Very Merry Christmas Parade right after we come back from these messages. Don't go away.
Don't go away.
Disc photography by Kodak. It's changing the way people take pictures.
Picture a brand new world.
The Kodak disc camera advances the film automatically, so you can get the pictures you may have missed before. And it knows when to flash, and can flash again in 1 1/3 seconds. All you do is push one button. The Kodak Disc 4000 camera. Bet you know someone who'd love one.
Picture a brand new world.
What power?
Where's Superman?
Superman, can you hear me?
What moves?
Your secret's safe with me. I'm not going to tell anyone.
What a guy.
Never thought this thing would go the distance.
Superman 2. Sunday at 8, 7 Central.
Oh, welcome back to the parade. You got here just in time because you know what, Ben?
What?
It is time to start the show. So let's go down to Main Street, USA for the start of Walt Disney World's Very Merry Christmas Parade.
The Christmas Parade, which began in 1983, and we actually have some details on the 1983 broadcast because it was recorded live on Christmas Day. It was broadcast out. The broadcast began at 1:30 in the afternoon, and they actually did it live. And it changed over the years after that, but to eventually becoming more pre-produced as it is today. And these days they actually record it weeks ahead of time. It's usually the first weekend in December. Most of the stuff is
disappointing. I don't know.
Most of the stuff is recorded now. But back then it was live from the Magic Kingdom at 1:30 on Christmas Day, and they would they would broadcast the parade live. So. As you know, today it's all musical performances, and they pre-record people in front of Disneyland's castle and the Magic Kingdom.
It's already recorded, isn't it, for this year? Like it's done.
It will be, yeah. It's like all the intros, and
they did it back in like November.
Yeah, they recorded in November this year, which is abnormally early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I prefer
dressed like pilgrims. You know,
I prefer day of live.
Yeah, live. You got to do it live.
Let's start a campaign.
Starring and featuring such celebrities as right,
yeah,
Rock Hudson,
equivalent modern day celebrities, because Rock Hudson, even though he's famous, but it was probably 10 years in the rearview mirror since he made a big movie. By the time he was doing some of these Candlelight Processionals.
Yeah,
so I wonder
somebody,
he's like a Nicolas Cage.
I wonder if they're concerned about something, happening live, or if it's like they just know they've got control.
Then they have that marketing tool for both parks. They bounce back and forth, and they couldn't do that live,
Right. So from what I kind of recall, the first ones that aired were actually, they purchased the airtime in order to put it on. It wasn't a show that the network actually asked for. They actually almost ran it like a commercial. To get people to see the Magic Kingdom, and then over the course of time, it actually became like more of a real show. But the first couple ones I think were actually bought and paid for, like advertising.
Not the parade they asked for, but the parade they needed at that time.
Right, and actually that is one of the ironic things, because I have some vague recollections going at Christmas time in the 1980s, like when these parades just started, and Christmas Day was fairly dead, but then as the parade got more and more fame, and people kind of expected it to be done live on Christmas Day, all of a sudden Christmas Day got incredibly busy. And now it's busy the weeks up to, because people expect it to be taped then. And like you said, JT, it's like now it's getting taped in November, and people are probably there in December expecting it to be shot. So
right, and they actually don't announce like, hey, we're going to record it on these days. It's usually like a day's warning. There's telltale signs, because they used to move the tree. It's one of the things that the Christmas tree used to go up in the Rose Garden to the right of the castle, right outside where the Plaza Ice Cream Parlor is.
Okay.
So they would put the tree up there until they filmed the parade, and then they would move the tree down to Main Street to Town Square.
Oh man.
And then they stopped doing that altogether. So they put the tree up in town square, and sometimes when they're filming the parade, they take the tree down so that they can get their shots, and then they put it back up for other shots. That used to be the musical tree coming up and down there.
That is amazing.
It is, isn't it? I mean, it was one of those early quirks of the thing. They would have the tree in the Rose Garden for the first month, and then move it down to town square for actual Christmas. That is the Magic Kingdom for now. There's a lot of other stuff there, but for now it's where we're at with the Magic Kingdom. We'll come back to it in next year's episode when you all email us and say, "Hey, you forgot XYZ," and this
Part 2 coming December 2000.
December 2016.
And speaking of Main Street, let's go down there right now to our co-host Regis Philbin. Reg, how is it down there?
Thank you, Joan, and Merry Christmas to you. Yeah, we got a lot of excitement down here. We got Jeff from Michigan right here. How are you, Jeff? A lot of folks from Canada. You know, the one thing about the crowds here, you never know where they're from. They're really from all over the world. Nice to have you with us, Jeff. Now, here's Gary from Polk City, Iowa, who comes every other year, right?
Right, every other year.
Nice to have you here. And some lady here who has just moved from Long Island to Florida?
Kissimmee, Florida.
Kissimmee, Florida? Is that the way you pronounce it?
Kissimmee.
What about at night?
Kissimmee.
See how you are? Very good. Anyway, it's nice to... Where are you from, young man?
I said, my parents said Maryland.
Yeah, but you're really from Tennessee, aren't you? No, the kid's all confused. Anyway, we got a lot of folks here. This lady is wearing earmuffs. Can you believe it? Never wear earmuffs here at Disney. And here, if you come here, you got to have cameras. Cameras right here. All right. All right, that's what's going on down here on Main Street. We're all waiting for the parade. Now back to you and Ben, Joan.
As we mentioned, the Candlelight Processional moved from the Magic Kingdom over to Epcot in 1993. But that was not when Epcot started celebrating the holidays. They started celebrating the holidays the first year they were open in 1982 with a precursor or predecessor, I guess, to what they produce today. What we know today is holidays around the world, where each country has different presentations of. China has the Monkey King, and the France has Papa Noel, and each of the countries tells you what their different holiday traditions are.
Is Krampus there?
No, Krampus is not there. We'll see if we'll write to Germany and see if they can add that.
They got to start now. Krampus has got to come in strong this year.
Didn't Germany have Black Peter, or am I crazy?
I don't know. I don't recall.
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyways,
go ahead. Sorry,
I digress.
So Epcot had two trees. Epcot has always had two trees. Let's start there. There was a tree on the bridge between Future World and World Showcase. As you come into World Showcase, a large tree, which is where the tree is today. And then there is usually a smaller tree in front of the American Pavilion across World Showcase Lagoon from the larger tree. And we actually, later in the show, we will play a story about the tree in front of the American Pavilion that was shared with us by one of our listeners and one of our guests a few months ago. And he'll tell you an interesting anecdote about one of those trees and his interaction with it. The gingerbread houses that you see in World Showcase pavilions now is part of this trend that began in the late 90s, where we make everything out of gingerbread now that it's Christmas time. It's this gingerbread cars and gingerbread houses and the gingerbread White House. And
I want a gingerbread spaceship Earth. I think
right.
That'd be sweet.
Gingerbread.
Right. So there's each of the pavilions usually has some kind of a gingerbread representation these days. That is more a product of the last 10 years or so. But I will throw one side story in here. A couple years ago, D23 hosted an event at Epcot called Holiday Splendor. It was a hard-ticketed event that lasted 2 days, and you get to go and I bought a ticket and went and sat there and listened to them tell us about Walt's history with Christmas and the early days of Christmas in the Magic Kingdom and the resort. And one of the stories they had different guests, and one of the people that had come in one day was the executive chef for Epcot. And she told us a story about how they had designed they always have a big gingerbread display in the American Pavilion, and it's usually the Capitol Building or Independence Hall or something like that they make out of gingerbread, and they will display it in the Liberty Inn next door to the American Pavilion. They put it in the Liberty Inn. Well, if you've ever eaten in the Liberty Inn, you know there are a lot of windows around, and there's almost a greenhouse effect in there.
Oh.
So they decided it would be a good idea to display this gingerbread creation, which was also a chocolate creation, right up against the window.
What a mess.
And yeah, after a day, it melted.
It's like a laser beam coming in.
Yeah. So they then had to move it into that year they had to move it into the rotunda of the American Adventure attraction. So even Disney, with all their planning, doesn't always get it right.
Just like the gingerbread house of the Contemporary, wasn't that
exactly
rattled apart, or did we debunk that? I forget.
No,
that's right. It was true. Yeah.
Okay.
The same story was told by the executive chef for Epcot in that weekend that the first year they put that big gingerbread house in the concourse of
rolled away.
the vibrations of the monorail going through used to shake pieces of the gingerbread house off, and they had to strengthen their adhesive.
Better icing.
Yeah, stronger icing. We needed super icing. Gingerbread's one of those things that they incorporate into a lot of the World Showcase pavilions. Another thing that used to be incorporated into a lot of them are trains. Now, the famous set of trains are in the German pavilion, and you can see them year round. That was not always the case. Originally, they were only displayed in that outdoor display next to the German pavilion at Christmas time. But they became so popular that Disney decided, all right, well, we'll just leave them out all year long and not have a Christmas theme to them.
That's that thing like right at the outskirts, right? That big train set.
Germany and Italy, right? I think
that's right. On the way to Italy.
Germany and Italy.
Interesting.
At the future site of Israel or Spain or one of the countries that never came.
For sure.
Yeah, and there used to actually be a train set under the tree inside the American Pavilion. There was a train set that was under the tree there, and that went the way of the dodo bird. And actually I found all kinds of evidence of trains that used to operate in some of the resorts and other places that over the years they've just retired. But when the park opened, because they didn't have the Candlelight Processional, getting back to the opening, they originally had a show called Holiday Splendor. And that was a show that was performed on the stage in front of America. And it was always had included dancers and an orchestra, accompanied by a soloist who was usually a Broadway or music industry celeb. This is where your B celeb used to be, Hal. If you go back and find the list of people that did this, they were less familiar names. It was very often Broadway names, song and dance men and women. And that actually ran from park opening for 11 years until Candlelight Processional moved over in 93. So that show ran from the opening. The other famous thing that they do today is at the end of Illuminations, they add the Peace on Earth tag, the holiday tag, which if you've not seen it, the normal Illumination show ends with a standard finale that everybody's gotten used to. But during the holidays, they add this hope for world peace narration that was by Walter Cronkite until this year. But there's a magnificent red and green holiday fireworks burst, like a 180-degree fireworks burst that goes off. It's overwhelming that they've added today. Prior to that, before there was Illuminations and the Peace on Earth tag, they just used to run the nightly fireworks. So you'd see not Fantasy in the Sky. What was it called? Symphony in the Sky? Sort of Skylidoscope, and the other one that they would do. Laserphonic Fantasy.
Yes.
Yeah. Laserphonic Fantasy. So that was actually listed as part of the Christmas program back then. And then something that I mourn. I don't know when they started, so someone is going to be able to answer that question, but the Lights of Winter. And the Lights of Winter were this beautiful set of lattice work that they would put up on the bridge between World Showcase and Future World. And it had it was a bridge of 30,000 lights, a canopy of 30,000 lights that extended over that bridge. And up through 2008, at the end of that bridge was the Epcot tree, which is still there. But they would have an annual tree. Every night they would have a tree lighting, Mickey's Tree Lighting Treat Show. And they'd have characters and performers from around World Showcase come and sing carols and light the tree and the arch. And there was a whole ceremony. Disney never announced they weren't bringing Lights of Winter back. So when the following year came around and they didn't go up, Disney just kind of sheepishly admitted that we're not bringing them back, that they had retired them. No real explanation why, but they were a much, much beloved thing that is missed. And on the ground floor underneath the canopy off to the side, they also had this display that was called the Winter Dandelions. And these were, they looked like dandelions, except they were made out of cascades of lights. And in the center of it was always a peace dove, this dove of peace that they have. And that was a display they put out every year that also went away in 2008. So this is our little call out there to please bring back the Lights of Winter. And I know someone is going to know when they actually started the Lights of Winter.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing. Very cool.
I agree with it. And that was synchronized with music and everything in its final years. I mean, it was really, really well done. It's very serene. You know, it wasn't in the center of an attraction area. So there you go. That's that's our brief glimpse at Epcot and at the Magic Kingdom.
Eastern Airlines presents a flight of imagination to Walt Disney World Epcot Center. With our low-cost vacation packages, a week here, including coach airfare and hotel accommodations, can be much less than you imagined. In fact, Eastern is the official airline of Walt Disney World. So when it comes to making your dream vacation affordable, we can work a little magic of our own. To see just how low our prices are, call your travel agent or Eastern Airlines.
And welcome back to Walt Disney World in Florida, and thanks to Sarah and Scott.
Regis Philbin is about to take us behind the scenes at the new Disney MGM Studios theme park.
Reg?
On October 1st, 1971, Walt Disney World introduced Disney Magic to Florida with the opening of the Magic Kingdom. That was just the beginning. On October 1st, 1982, Epcot Center hailed the dawn of a new Disney era with Future World and World Showcase. Come this spring, Walt Disney World will unveil its third theme park. I mean the biggest project since Epcot Center. The Disney MGM Studios, bringing you movie magic and excitement unlike anything you've ever seen. The Disney MGM Studios...
I do have a few notes on Disney's Hollywood Studios. A couple of things that we should note as we go, board our friendship and then walk through the International Gateway and board a boat to take us across Crescent Lake from Epcot Center over to the entrance to Disney's Hollywood Studios. And when you're walking in there in our retro timeline in 1989 when the park opened, you come to an empty open expanse and you go through the turnstiles and you come around the small station in the center there with Mickey on top of the globe, and you look down Hollywood Boulevard and you would see this beautiful Christmas tree standing there in front of the replica of Grauman's Chinese Theater. Now, the original tree had a train set with a miniature Hollywood all around it. So at the base of the tree, there was this miniature model of Hollywood that included like the original Disney studios on there in Burbank and and all kinds of other neat stuff that they would sprinkle into this model that also had a working train set that moved through it. At the same time, a lot of the decorations that you see today were used, which are the light poles that have the trees and the stars on them. A more recent addition, but every year you see the mini ornament chorus line in the 5 and 10 window. But in the original years, including the very first year it opened, the icon for the park was the Earful Tower, which is the water tower with the mouse ears on it. The very first year the park was open, they put a Santa hat on the Earful Tower for the holiday season.
I remember that.
Yeah. And they
made a big joke, like some guy carried it up there on the backlot tour.
Well, there's always a story, yeah.
Yes.
And so they did that for a while. and then they decided that that wasn't the park icon anymore. Most everything of those kinds of changes, it looks like the first 11 years the park pretty much did everything the same every year until the tree was ousted in 2001 because they decided to build a gigantic stupid hat of Grauman's Chinese Theater.
We all have that. I hate that hat.
Yeah, so the hat ousted the tree, and they said
they burned it to the ground now. So just take it
going
easy.
to put the tree, and so they moved the tree outside the park entrance. Now, this was something they had already done when they opened the Animal Kingdom a few years earlier in 1998, and there was no real appropriate place to put the Christmas tree in that park because the park's icon was a gigantic tree. So it would have looked silly to put a Christmas tree in front of another gigantic tree. And if you've been to the Animal Kingdom, there's really no real appropriate place you could put it. So there they put the tree actually outside the turnstiles as you arrive at the park. And that one's got decorations of animal ornaments and things like that. Well, they decided to do the same thing at the Hollywood Studios, which is how it is actually still today. The tree is put up right outside the turnstiles at the entrance plaza, and it's decorated with movie reels and all kinds of other Hollywood stuff. It's kind of neat. Two other things they do in that park that I want to touch on. One, we can probably do a whole show on at some point, but they do have a year-round Christmas shop there, as they do in Epcot and the Magic Kingdom. But there it's called It's a Wonderful Shop. I love this little spot because it's got fake snow out front all year round.
Yeah.
But one of the things they do is the shop is laid out in like a New York Street area, and there's a second floor. There's a fire escape over it, and they put the coolest 6-foot Santa Claus up there on the fire escape every year. It's still there this year, but they only put them out at Christmas time. So the other 10 months of the year by their calendar, the shop doesn't have anything out there. It's just the It's a Wonderful Shop. But, for those 2 months a year, they put that Santa Claus up there. And there is one other thing that they do at the Hollywood Studios for Christmas, and this is the final year for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Osborne Lights.
Yes, the Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights.
Not Ozzy Osbourne, for those who don't know what we're talking about.
So the story behind these, for those who don't know, I actually remember this being like headline news in the 1990s. Every year, Jennings Osborne, who was a wealthy Little Rock, Arkansas businessman, would pay for this massive display of 1 million lights in front of his house, and it would draw a bajillion people. Would create massive traffic jams, and the neighbors started to complain because people would come from pretty much every person in Arkansas would drive in to see this thing. And I remember watching it on CNN. There was the court battle over whether he was going to be allowed to keep lighting the lights, and eventually the neighbors won that it was a nuisance, and the court ordered him to darken the lights, as was part of Michael Eisner's modus operandi back then. He called them up and said, "Hey, we'll take your lights and put them up down here." So Jennings Osborne sold the lights to Disney, and Disney brought them down here, and they set them up on the studio lot through Residential Street, which of course no longer exists. But back then, Residential Street was part of the tram tour, and they had houses from famous TV facades like the Golden Girls house and the house from Empty Nest and the house from one of the Ernest movies that JT probably knows which one.
Saves Christmas.
Ernest Saves Christmas. There you go.
Gotcha.
He's our official Ernest encyclopedia.
It's on Netflix right now, instant, if you're interested.
So the
remember part of that was recorded on the back.
No, it was recorded. I'm not kidding you.
Filmed.
I literally watch it because you can see where they're driving around and you see the signs. He was driving on the Disney roads,
They didn't go to. It's like Thunder in Paradise. They didn't. Hide
driving by Hulk Hogan and Thunder in Paradise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So the yes, we have to get to the good part of the Osborne family. So originally, by the way this was done, there was one entrance and one exit. I love the Osborne lights, but I hate going to see them because it's just this mass of humanity now, and strollers and people stopping and taking pictures and video. And the way that it was back then, there was one entrance point, and they would let you in, and you would actually walk through Residential Street at your own pace, everyone going in the same direction. And you would take it in, and you'd make your way through, and there was one exit point. So it was one single one-way direction to get through the attraction. And I just remember it being like the nicest, most serene Christmas music's playing and everything. And now it's, I don't know, it's like the difference between going to like an old corner tavern and then walking into like a club, like a nightclub, and the only thing missing is the pumping music there.
Yeah, I got to experience that too, and it was really nice. It was, like you said, it was just a very relaxing. It was very cool that it was on houses, so it was more of a sort of a reproduction of what he did at his house. It seemed more quaint, I guess, because it was houses rather than stuff spread up all over through that huge intersection.
Well,
now,
right.
Do I recall you just walked that at that time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I remember doing that like 1 year, 2 years or something like that when it was back there.
Which was also a unique experience because you never got to walk through there.
Yeah.
The rest of the year was on the tram tour.
I recall like one of the houses had a bike in the yard, and they just completely decked out the bike lane there, like in lights. Like all the spokes had like rope lights in it, and
yep. I mean, so it was. There are some
that's
videos.
All I got.
What?
That's all I got. I don't know much more than that. I remember the bike.
No, that was good.
Yeah. So one of the I want to remember, I'm trying to remember if they decorated Herbie or not. Because then he used to ride by Herbie and he would go up and down on that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if he was on that tour or not.
I don't remember when I saw it. I do not remember him being there. I think he occasionally had maintenance issues and would kind of disappear for stretches.
Got it. Yeah, but so you'd end up in what was that town square where they used to begin and end the tour. You drive through that town square, and that was always decorated. And the town square is where they would have the carousel of angels that was always up top and would spin around. And but it was, it was a really, really nice thing.
I seem to recall they had a stage there too that they would do some live entertainment on through the holidays. Like I want to say I went there for New Year's Eve, and they had Eddie Money playing on the stage there.
Take me home tonight.
So once they demolished Residential Street to build the Lights, Motors, Action stunt show, they then crammed it into New York Street. I think that's pretty much all of it now, right? It's New York Street and.
Yeah, I get with that in the San Francisco street too. So
it's all that left. It's left of the lottery.
So it's all kind of crammed in there. They let people in from. I think you can still only get in one side now. I don't remember. I think you can only get in one. They only let you in the one side now. But it's so much more cramped and crammed and not anything like the original was. So we'll stop with the Remember When stuff there.
And I think the actual lights are all different now too, because they replaced all of his lights with LED lights a couple of years ago.
Right.
Well, they say too, isn't there that wives' tale that like they just throw them all away every year and start fresh because it's cheaper?
I don't know that. What I do know is that originally it was a static light display. And then somewhere in the mid '00s, when the whole computer-controlled lights things, they became the Osborne spectacle of dancing lights. And so now it's all this that coordinated to terrible Mannheim Steamroller synth music and stuff, and
glow with the show.
Yeah.
There's more magic on the way, so stay right where you are.
From Atari, made especially for systems from Atari, the video game that lets you help E.T. get home, just in time for Christmas. Happy holidays from Atari.
Shh! Don't wake him. Little Beard's the grumpiest pirate afloat. But we're supposed to cheer him up.
Who goes there?
Snap, crackle, pop. Sir.
State your business, mates.
To put fun into your morning.
What be fun?
Kellogg's Rice Krispie cereal.
It's fun to put Snap, Crackle, Pop into your morning.
Part of this complete breakfast.
A talking treasure.
Sir, where do pirates come from?
Pittsburgh. Where else?
Welcome back to Walt Disney World's very Merry Christmas Parade, everybody. We're live from the Magic Kingdom in Florida, and here are some characters that are plenty live.
You better believe it.
Yes, here's Liver Lips.
So that is the 4 parks, but that is not where our Christmas extravaganza ends. And obviously, again, the caveat, we know that's not comprehensive for every park. There's plenty left there for another show. But we would be remiss to not mention the other big, most remembered Christmas themed show that they did, which was the Downtown Disney. Before it was Downtown Disney, it's now Disney Springs. Before that, it was Lake Buena Vista Shopping Village and the Disney Shopping Village and 5 or 6 other names, right? So that opened in 1973. They opened the shopping village, and there had been some debate over, and when I say debate, I mean between actual cast members who participated. There is vociferous debate between whether the first year they did the live nativity at Downtown Disney in either 1975 or 1976. Hal had found something that said, a comment actually on a video that said 1976. I found photos and cast members who swore it was 1975. I have the 1975 brochure, and the 1975 brochure did not mention the event going on. So I don't know whether it was in 1975 or not, because I was 1, and I was not in Florida.
Sorry.
But I am going to accept that it was either 1975 or 76. What everyone agrees on is that this show, which I'll describe in a second, was performed originally under what was the Captain's Tower, which there's a ton of pictures of because it was one of the landmarks in the Lake Buena Vista Shopping Village. And so the first 2 years, it is generally agreed by everybody that it was done underneath the tower. And then after that, because it was growing in popularity, they moved it to a stage that they constructed. So they had this nativity show called The Glory and Pageantry of Christmas. And the first couple years that it was performed, it was a very small, regarded as a very intimate show. Because what did you say the initial group was?
So it would start off with 4 singers in kind of Victorian garb, and they would come out and do a couple of songs and sort of warm up the crowd, and then the baritone guy would start the narration, and then as he would tell the story, it's like people would walk up on the stage and fulfill their parts, and then just kind of freeze. So it was very unusual in that, but I'll let you tell more of the story of who they are and how they got there and all that stuff.
So 2 side notes. The group that came out for some reason in Elizabethan Victorian garb, because apparently people dressed like that at the time of Jesus. They was a group called Regeneration, and they actually have a Christmas album out, which includes some of the very pieces of music and arrangements that they performed in the show. So that is somewhere probably out of print, somewhere on a vinyl album, 8-track or cassette tape that you can hunt down and find. But
I've got the wax cylinder.
He plays that thing all day. There you go. I threw your Carousel of Progress line at you. So we sorry. So they would, as Hal said, these guys would come out and the different actors would come out and it was playing. Say Joseph and Mary came to Bethlehem, and they would walk out. Think the Peanuts Christmas special, as they're reading the story and people are acting it out. But they'd come on stage, and then as Hal said, they would freeze, and it would eventually create a living tableau. The whole show was about 30 minutes. I want to say 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So what the cast members from that they recount is, if you watch, there is a video of the entire show, so you can see it from the 1980s when it ran. They would black out the stage at certain points to set up different things. And when they would black the stage out, the people who were in these living tableaus, the cast members say that's when they would all just like shake it all about and try and like shake their limbs loose and blink their eyes and, stretch. And then they'd have about 10 seconds to then get back into positions. So then it would come back on, and there'd be like a new person on stage, and everybody had to kind of be back in their places. So that's one cast member story that they talked about. After a couple of years, the thing got big, and they decided to build a stage by the Empress Lily, or towards the Empress Lily, down on the edge of the water. Now, the cast members who remember this remember two things about it. It got noticeably colder when they were right on the water. So the common recounting from everyone who worked on the show was how cold they were, because they'd get up there in these costumes. And, Central Florida, although this week isn't a good indicator, can often get chilly weather in December, January, and February, especially in the evenings. So they're down there. In the beginning, it was only a couple of performances. They added some as it went on, but in the beginning, it was performed the week leading up to Christmas Eve 2 times a night. And in the mid '80s, they did it on 3 nights. It never turned into with the Candlelight or any of that stuff. They were doing 50 shows or anything like that.
Yeah, but I will agree. It would there would be certain nights that it was quite cold, because when we moved to Florida in '79, we went every year from '79 until they stopped doing that show, and it could get very cold, especially on the water right there.
Yeah, the world famous half-inch snowfall was in '77, so that kind of makes sense with that must have been a cold year. Also, my understanding is they all, the cast members too. A little known fact is that to warm up, they would actually go back to Roy's cabin, and they had some
nice fireplace
there. Cocoa, yeah.
Yes,
right on the edge.
They take a boat over there.
They take a boat
afterwards, right up the water. You were absolutely correct, Todd. That was where the post show was. So yeah, they would just stand there. The other story about so each year they'd add these cast members. They'd add people to it because they'd say, well, we have this big stage and it's so popular, so we'll add a candle maker this year and we'll add a shepherd and they kept adding angels. And a cast member who was telling the story said, does everybody remember the year one of the angels fell in the lake? So apparently one of the angels got a little too, their wings weren't quite lofty enough, and they went over into the drink off the riser.
Yeah, I guess we should mention that the way that stage is set up it's a little bit different. The stage is kind of in the same location now as it was then, but there was no back to that. It was literally just a platform that was built right out onto the water. So there was nothing to catch anybody if they spilled off of it. And I want to say that set was built right up against it, and the stage was quite small. It was not as expansive as it is today. It was a very small stage. So
yeah, So it was very popular, as Hal can attest, since he says his family went every year. It was also free. It was free, as opposed to, up until '81, everything in the parks was ticketed by ride. And after that, it was one price every day to get in. But this was an attraction that was free, and Disney wasn't known at that time for doing a lot of free things. So the initial thought process behind why they designed this was to draw locals in during the Christmas season to shop at the village for Christmas presents. So it was supposed to be a boon to the merchants. The show continued. Now, how do you happen to know? I mean, I think we've got evidence that it went into the early 90s.
Yes. I want to say that while you're talking, I will go play Wikipedia Man and look that up.
You can play, but I think the best indication we got was when they did the whole West Side and Pleasure Island and all that. That eventually they somewhere around that time frame they sunset the program. And the reason they sunset the program was that they were not, people would come and watch the tableau and watch the show, but they weren't shopping. And obviously, in the 90s, the focus of, what was Lake Buena Vista Village turning into downtown Disney, it wasn't so much that they were looking for locals to come and do their Christmas shopping anymore. It was just a nighttime destination for the resort vacationers.
Well, and I'll tell you, it got quite, because of the popularity, it got so busy there. I mean, it was a madhouse in its final years. So people might have come to watch the show and just thought it is way too busy to try to deal with it. And so that's why they left.
Yeah. So it eventually retired, and they don't do the show anymore, but people have very, very fond memories of it. Some of the other stuff that they used to do, if you went down there at the time and you weren't watching the Nativity, it was all part of what they would call each year. They do a 12 Days of Christmas promotion in the downtown area, all designed to kind of promote shopping and people to visit the place. One of the things they used to do down there was the Marvelous Magical Christmas Tree Stage Show. So on the nights, leading up to it, and that was a show that would have the characters come out. There is actually scrap that. The Marvelous Magical Christmas Tree Stage Show, which there is actually a video we'll post a link to, and that was this bizarre kind of, again, had a narrator. All of these people were in Victorian garb.
Okay.
And they'd come out onto stage and they would tell portions of the story of the Nativity and other Christmas related stories. And then there would be, in between them, there would be songs. They would sing songs very much along the Voices of Liberty type of performance. And that was like a half an hour long. And they'd come out and do this stage show of, someone standing there saying, and then this happened. And so we'll post the link to that. You can watch that as well. But it was another show that they did on the stage to entertain the shoppers. A couple of other things noted down there from people was the Christmas tree. And in the 80s and 90s, the tree there was like 40 feet high. And it was surrounded by these 5-foot packages. And the packages were laid out at the base of the tree, but there was this huge field that they would build of red poinsettias at the bottom that made up the base, like the ground where they were setting the presents, and then the tree rose up from it. There's a couple of pictures. I'll have to see if we can snag one of them and post that as well, where people have taken pictures of their kids standing next to the tree, and the kids look like they're smaller than the presents under the tree. There's this massive tree over top of them. So. At some point they stopped doing that. And it was when they were changing over the stores, I guess. And eventually they moved the tree, a smaller tree, outside of the Once Upon a Toy store. And the tree would be decorated with actual toys, like Etch-a-Sketches and like not actual Etch-a-Sketches, like cartoony Etch-a-Sketches. They would fabricated stuff that was like oversized, and that's what they would decorate it with stuff to go in the toy store and buy. And that lasted until 2011 when they replaced it with a more traditional tree. And Hal, you had a memory of some ice skating down there?
Yeah, I recall the year. I think we probably drove out to see the Christmas show, the Glory and the Pageantry at Christmas, and we all sat down, and then all of a sudden one year there was something completely different there, which was it was like supposed to be like the exterior, I think, of like Mickey or Minnie's house. And they had, was at the time, I think, kind of novel, that artificial ice.
Yes.
That material stuff that you can ice skate on. And they did this character ice skating show in that same spot instead. Which I think might have lasted for a year or two, and then I think they might have actually moved it into one of the parks for a while. A little hazy on that one, so again, some help some help from Sony.
And they still have, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say this still because I almost never go to downtown Disney anymore. But I know years, when I say years, a few years ago, they had an ice skating rink down there like this time of year that you could rent like skates and go skating on.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they still have that or not, but it was certainly a product of the 2000s. They had it was right, if I remember correctly, it was right between the World of Disney store and whatever the hell is across the way from it. They used to put up a little ice skating rink and you could skate there.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite like holiday memories is.
Does it involve pie?
It doesn't, but it involves a shop very close to where we used to go get the pie. The Christmas store there.
Yes.
For years and years, and it may still be there, but I don't recall it on my last couple of visits. They used to have a music box, one of these old style ones that played discs, these big giant 12-inch silver discs.
Yes. Oh, with the little holes in them, right?
Yeah, with the holes in them.
Yeah.
And that to me just always said Christmas. They sold CD. I think they actually sold the music box players there, and I ended up picking up a CD from that place, and I put that on, and it just reminds me of like being a kid and going into that Christmas shop.
Yeah, so their marketing for the village at the time, the shopping village, was, I mean, it's some of their best written stuff because you read it and you're like, boy, I really want to go there. Like, it just sounds like this fantastic shopping experience. So from the 1983 write-up, it's, visit an old-fashioned toy shop where plush 10-foot giraffes, miniature working steam engines, and exquisite Madame Alexander dolls surround you with a child's Christmas fantasy. I mean, like, who doesn't want to go do that? Peer into the windows of a candy factory. Gaze at treetops, glistening and sparkling holiday decorations in a fanciful nutcracker suite. And pause to enjoy a palm-stretching roast beef sandwich at an outdoor table while holiday carolers fill the air with music. Who wants to meet me there?
Sandwich.
Yeah, from Heidelberger's Deli.
Yeah,
sounds great.
It was. I'll tell you, they did a lot of promotional stuff to try to bring locals out there. And like you said, with the Captain's Tower, it's like that was the first place that they put a lot of local entertainment in. And it was huge. In the holidays, it was packed. It was a really, really nice event. It was always busy. That's one of the things that I always think about Disney and Christmas. It's like I think about Lake Buena Vista before I think of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You've just begun to discover the joys of Christmas shopping at the Village. You'll also find old world craftsmen at work, original art displays, New York fashions, European antiques, and special gifts from all 6 continents.
Yeah, and there would have been nothing in Central Florida. As you've talked about before, it's like there were not, I mean, there were, some malls in Orlando, things that probably don't even exist anymore, like Orlando Fashion Square and Colonial Plaza. You wouldn't had any kind of selection like you would have got there. You had really unique stuff at the Village at that time.
Right, yeah.
So I hope I haven't bored you all with our brief tour around the 4 parks, very brief on Animal Kingdom and the Hollywood Studios, and the downtown area. But that's just an inkling of some of what went on during the holidays in the early years of the parks.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention the hotels and how each of the hotels would always do.
So in preparing for this episode, I started making notes on the resorts. And then I said, this is going to be a Herman Wouk Winds of War style episode if I don't decide to contain it. Because the resorts are just, it's a whole, you've got 20 years of the contemporary and the Polynesian before they were really building and opening other resorts. And then you've got everything that they've done where they really just tried to, in fact, I have a marketing brochure. I want to say it's from 93 or 92. Where they had opened, the Grand Floridian, and they had opened the Port Orleans Resort, and so they're marketing all of this stuff and everything that they're doing there. And we've got a New England Christmas at the Yacht Club, and we've got it's just way too much. We can do it next year.
Excellent. Well, Brian, appreciate all the efforts there and great stories, and we'll return after a message from our sponsors.
Arcade players, get ready. The new Atari 5200 Super System is here. With a controller so advanced it plays arcade. Graphics so real it looks arcade. With arcade hits you can't play on any other system. No other home video system can touch it. The new Atari 5200 Super System. It's as good as you are, maybe even better. Next time.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. They got a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. They got the best for so much less. You really flip your lid. From bikes to trains to video games, it's the biggest toy store there is. Gee whiz! I don't want to grow up, 'cause maybe if I did, I couldn't be a Toys R Us kid. More games, more toys. Oh boy, I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
All right, well, it's time for viewer mail. JT, you ran out there this month. Lots of letters flying in and out. What do we got? Who wrote into us this month? What do we have to go over?
Got one from a good friend who discusses with us the burning scent in the Pirates of the Caribbean. What do you guys know about that? Is that real? Is that fake? Is his mother remembering incorrectly?
It's same for what, the 80s and 90s, right?
Yeah, 80s, 90s, the burning scent. I feel like it. Is there something still there? Or is this just me remembering incorrectly? I don't know.
I personally don't recall any smell there. How?
No, I think I read that they recently just added some smellitzers in there. But no, classically, no. The sort of like the stench of water and probably algae and rot.
Yeah.
But
I love the water smell.
I never remember any kind of burning smell from the fire sequences or anything.
So it could be
the smell of hydraulic fluid in the morning.
So it could just be a confusion with Spaceship Earth and that burning scene, getting them crossed in the mind.
He says one more thing about his mom remembering a video of Walt introducing the Contemporary with its A-frame design, which he says he doesn't see as possible, and I kind of tend to agree with him. Do you think that's true?
Well, I know that Walt never really talked about the actual final design that I know of. My only thought process would be some sort of, edited clip put together, or where he's talking about, Project Florida and edited together with some actual footage and stuff after the park had opened. But I don't know if you guys recall anything else, just seeing something of that nature.
Yeah, I don't feel like Walt talked about the U.S. Steel design. That seems past his era, we'll say.
Well, he did have a nice chest of drawers up in his office. That
he did.
The inspiration
where he could see Roy's cabin from.
Yeah, he could
with the McFarkles. Yeah. I just want you to say, if you use any of our answers to prove your mom wrong, you're not allowed to say, "Hey, the guys at Retro Disney World said you're wrong, Mom."
I told you, Mom.
Yeah,
the meatloaf.
All right, JT, what else we have this month?
We had the other one, which talks a lot about film and things of that nature. I was going to pass that off to you since you're the pro in all of that 35 millimeter film.
Right, yeah. So this gentleman named Tim wrote in, and he took a look at our Magic of Walt Disney World film that we restored and did an entire episode on last month. And we talked about that some of the scenes, specifically the Country Bears and the Hall of Presidents, kind of looking odd. And, they just didn't have the same color and they didn't look as crisp as the remainder of the film. And what he could tell from the cropping, and also because he has worked in the film industry, was that chances are those scenes were originally shot on 16 millimeter. And then, if you recall, last month we talked about how this was a theatrical release, so there was a 35 millimeter print of the film made. So the 16 millimeter footage of Hall Presidents and Country Bears was blown up to fit a 35 millimeter format. And then, in order to make the final 16 millimeter print that we have, it was then shrunk back down. So if you think about it, it's a third generation copy. So the grain was exploded, and then the grain was then shrunk back down into again for the third copy. So, and then of course the copy we have is a print from the master. So you're 3 generations removed. So it was interesting to have somebody who's worked with film be able to picked that out and determined that that's probably why. And that makes sense. Some of that footage was probably cheaper to shoot and easier to shoot with 16 millimeter cameras in the attractions. So.
Well, I think they used to anything that was shot for television back then was usually shot on 16.
16, yeah.
Yeah, so most of your television shows that were shot on film back then to be broadcast were shot on 16 because the quality was good enough for television broadcast at that point.
Okay, yeah. And this stuff also would have been then shrunk also down to 8 millimeter as well, used in those Subaru films. So Tim also wrote to us, guys, you remember last month we loved the who we thought was Dick Nunes water skiing in the water skiing show.
He says Dick Nunes.
He could remember up until the mid 80s that they did this early in the morning as the Magic Kingdom was opening. So they'd launch it right from the Seven Seas Lagoon ferry boat dock at the TTC, and they would kind of entertain the crowd waiting on the dock for the boats before they started running. Goofy and Pluto would come out. It took place for a couple minutes in the morning before all the rental boats hit the lagoon. So kind of interesting, a little bit of a memory there of that stuff going on. So a little more of the water skiing mystery. So
what a scene, though. You're like waiting at the TCC to get on your boat to the Magic Kingdom, and there's just like this water ski spectacle going on. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. They would just do this small, and maybe not as extensive as we saw in the film, but still.
Yeah. Still, though, you're just chilling like, oh my God, and then Pluto goes skiing by. It's pretty cool.
Dogs can't ski. Look at that, Marjorie.
Yeah. And there goes Dick Nunes,
Get
honey.
out the 8 millimeter and film that. So, all right. Nice. Well, JT, tell them where they can find us, how they can get their letters and mail out to us.
Questions, comments, concerns, podcast at retrodisneyworld.com. Send it our way. Holiday season, I know everybody's a little busy, but if you have any positive feedback or questions about what we discussed on this episode, that is where you can reach us.
Exactly. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit about our t-shirts and merchandise. As always, retrodisneyworld.com/support us. Got all sorts of great t-shirts and designs, and how you kept this latest one completely secret. You mentioned it, but tell the listeners what you made, went live. I know we've sold a handful of them so far.
Yeah, so with the final closing of Captain EO upon us, who knows? Maybe for the last time. Maybe he'll come back again. If he came back once, you never know, he could come back.
He'll be back. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. He's there when we need him. That's
right.
When the world needs Captain EO, he comes out of retirement.
He's here to save the world.
That's right.
Somebody give him a flat tire right when we need him to.
So as a tribute to the good captain, oh Captain, my Captain. I put together a t-shirt design of "See You Later" trash cans, of like 3 Captain EO trash cans with "See You Later" up in the spot where the push would be.
Nice.
And I'm gonna do some surprise holiday themed t-shirts too. So be on everybody open your browsers right now, because as we play this back, they will be on the shop for you to.
retrodisneyworld.com/support us.
Let's just say if you like another captain who is no longer at the resort, I think you will find something that might be to your interest.
Captain Salty Hinder.
We are back. In this past 90 minutes, you've seen a side of Christmas that makes us all laugh and smile, but there's another side of the holiday we'd like to share with you. It's a feeling...
All right, normally we do the film restoration portion of the program right now, but we did a pretty lengthy one last month, so we're going to skip it this month, but instead we have a very good story from Glenn Simpson. If you remember back in episode 12, Glenn discussed some stories of him bumping boats and bumping buses in World Showcase, and when we spoke with him, we asked him to tell us a little bit of a Christmas story. So we spoke to Glenn, and this is what he had to say.
Back in those days, which probably this was 1983, both the Magic Kingdom and the Epcot Center would close early on Christmas Eve, like at 6 p.m., so that cast members could spend time with their families and guests could go back to their hotels and everything to get ready for Santa's visit later on that evening. And at the time, I was working in World Showcase as the job title was Lagoon Transportation Lead, and part of the role of that was just to ensure that the area was somewhat clean and well kept and during the day of operation. And it was getting probably a little bit later in the evening. Sun was starting to go down, even though this is Central Florida. It still gets dark around Christmas time fairly early. So I'm guessing it was probably around 5 o'clock or so. And I'm walking in front of American Adventure, and the Christmas tree, which was a live tree, both in the Magic Kingdom and Epcot, they would be brought in from California, and they would have these huge ornaments placed on them and everything, and just like today. And the Christmas tree in Epcot Center was between World Showcase and Future World. And so as walking by American Adventure, I look across the lagoon, and the tree is not straight. Instead, it's pretty well tilted. And, kind of did a double take, because a 65-foot Christmas tree that's kind of tilted is sort of odd looking. So I contacted my supervisor by radio, as well as, I think, security and a couple other departments and everything. And with a tree that high, there are guy wires up near the top. And what had happened, apparently, is one of those guy wires had come apart. Nobody was hurt. The tree was slightly tilted. If you were close to the tree, you may not even notice it. It was sort of a visual thing from a distance, where you could see it was, a little. It was tilting to one side. So what I believe happened is they were able to kind of cordon off that area, and because it was Christmas Eve, the park was getting ready to close. And again, no events, no incidents, anything like that. And one of the ideas of Disney having so many people just trying to keep an eye on things is to help avoid any kind of safety event from happening. And so it was all good, but that night, Christmas Eve, they had to fix the guy wire so Christmas morning, everybody could come in and the tree would be standing straight. So, it's considered, the feedback that I got, it was considered kind of a good catch, because it could have been a situation that it could have been worse than what it was. But it was kind of interesting to see a tree leaning off, or the leaning Christmas tree of Epcot Center.
The Canadian who saved Christmas.
Yeah, the Canadian, eh?
All right. Well, big thanks to Glenn Simpson for telling that story.
What a great story.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Perfect for this episode.
Thanks, Glenn.
With all the excitement, you might think that this is the end, but hold on, because we are going to come right back, and we will have a special Christmas finale that you will remember for a long, long time.
Very long time, so don't go away.
Hi, I'm Vicki. Where's the world's greatest resort? Watch this, then stay tuned. I'll be back in a minute with a free offer.
Daddy's got a new job. Maybe he and Mom forgot what childhood means.
I'll never meet Mickey Mouse. Maybe we'll go.
Hey, little girl, do you think that no one cares about your dreams?
Daddy's working.
That's what you think.
These are times you'll always treasure. Now your dreams come true. Sharing all the fun together.
It's Mickey.
Together at Disney.
Hi again. Right now, rooms are available in the famous Walt Disney World Resort hotels. Call this toll-free number, and we'll show you more in this 28-page vacation magazine, yours free. It's filled with the rooms, recreation, and fantasy of the world's greatest resort. Call this toll-free number now. The rooms, the fun, and your free magazine are waiting.
All right, well, this is the segment that you have all been waiting for a year to hear. It is Audio Rewind, as always, but tonight we will be giving away the big prize. That's right.
$10 million.
Whoa, wait a minute. Who agreed to that?
Sold a lot of T-shirts this year, folks.
That's right. We've been doing really well. Now, tonight we're going to be giving away this month's the yearly prize, the big prize we're talking about, which is the replica Paul Hartley map from www.map.com. But first,
we're not going with the rice-a-roni this year?
No. Oh, we did have a year's supply.
Yeah.
Quaker steak?
That's right.
Quaker steak oil?
We may have some hamburger helper left. I'm not sure.
Jelly of the Month Club.
Jelly of the Month. So before we get to that, we are going to rewind to last month's Rewind Puzzler. And let's take a listen real quick to last month's. All right. Well, if you guys out there guessed the Pirates of the Caribbean, it was the digging scene from the queue. You were correct, and this month's winner is Preston Wheelis. Congratulations, Preston. You'll be receiving the Progress City primer from autographed by
Michael Crawford.
Michael Crawford. Sorry about that, Michael. Forgot your name there for a second, but completely autographed, so we'll get that out to you. And
we really dig your answer.
That's right.
It's autographed. That's awesome. Yes.
So we're going to take a listen to this month's. Guys, I have a new prize to give away. Do you guys remember Chris Buckles? We had him on the show a little while. Remember that?
Yes.
Chris had drawn that wonderful transportation map. Transportation vehicles. Well, he has done it again, this time in Main Street, USA. And he sent me a bunch of the posters. So we're going to give those away. It's
all the buildings, right?
Yeah, it's all the buildings of Main Street, left and right side.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So what you remember is the transportation poster was all the vehicles that are used in rides or to get around the resort, transportation of any kind. He's made a poster of all of them, and he's done the same thing here with this Main Street poster. He's basically taken every representation of a building on Main Street and gone ahead and put them on a poster.
Yep.
And the sales pitch that I give is that if you live with people who are not Disney fans, and they don't let you hang up your pictures of Figment and Dreamfinder.
They still won't let you hang this up.
Brochures, park maps from the 1970s. These actually do not scream Disney. You can hang them in your family room or your study without drawing immediate attention to what it is. It actually just looks like some kind of decorative artwork. It's beautiful.
And
it's very
insanely detailed.
Yeah.
This new Main Street one is just so well detailed.
And the transportation had like 80 some on there. I forget.
Yeah.
But you can buy them on his Etsy shop. But obviously we're going to be giving that away this month. So Hal, let's see. You've probably got something queued up for this month. So let's take a listen. All right, well, if you think you know the answer to this month's audio rewind, send your entries to podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. A random winner will be drawn from all correct entries received this month, and you'll win the prize if you're pulled from those correct entries of the Main Street poster from Chris Buckles. Submit your entries on or before January 11th, 2016, and all entries will be entered at the Big Prize drawing in December 2016 for that new big prize. All right, so this is the time that everybody has been waiting for to hear. We have received over 200 and some entries over the past 12, 13 months for the Audio Rewind Puzzler. And it is now time to pick from all those entries and reveal who has won this year's 2015 Big Prize, which is the replica Paul Hartley map from wdwmap.com. So, guys, we got a lot of entries over the time, so this has got to be exciting for everybody, huh?
Yeah, just to recap for everybody, if you submitted an answer at any point this year, right or wrong, you got entered into this drawing. That's right, Todd?
That's absolutely correct. So it doesn't matter if you got it right. So that's why it's really important every month. Just give us a guess. You never know, because even if you're wrong, you're entered in this big prize drawing. So, Hal, you gonna cue up some drums here?
Sure.
And the winner is the 2015 Big Prize drawing on the Retro Disney World podcast is David Lambie. Congratulations. Congratulations. You have won the WDW map, the replica Paul Hartley map from wdwmap.com. So congratulations. And we'll be in touch with you getting that out. And I'm sure you're going to hang it in a place of prominence in your home.
And for all of those who are our runners-up, they win.
Some of our departing contestants will receive some of the following: lean hickory smoked sliced bacon from Raft, gently smoked over genuine hickory fires, a most flavorful bacon from Raft. Also bright beams and shines, no wax floors without wax for a beautiful dynamite, no wax shine. Nothing shines brighter than bright. Plus beautiful Auditions footwear designed for today's woman who appreciates designer styling, outstanding quality, and superb comfort. Experience the difference with Auditions by Craddock Terry. Also Rain Dance car wax actually outlasts the leading dealer applied poly wax. Water beating proves it, DuPont guarantees it. Plus it's the new shape of pleasure. Light, sparkling, bodily, boldly sophisticated pink champagne takes you away from the ordinary. Pink champagne malt liquor from Iroquois brand.
All right, so for all you listeners out there, we do have an idea of what we're going to do for next year's big prize. And what we're planning on doing, and I'm going to let Hal explain this. Hal, why don't you tell what we're going to be doing next year?
So here's what we're thinking. What is better than one prize?
More than one.
More than one. You got to have multiple.
Obviously,
right? Yeah.
obviously more than one prize. And so since we're a monthly podcast, why don't we do this? Why don't we start with one prize? And as we go for each one of these podcasts, we'll add one more prize to the pile.
Ooh.
So when we get to next year, we'll have a grand total of like 12 prizes to give away.
So let me see if I follow this. In addition to awarding a monthly prize,
right?
Yeah.
Each month we're also going to add a prize to a grand total of 12 prizes.
That's right.
Prize package that one person will win at the end of the year.
That's right. For your card players, like we'll put one prize in the pot every time, and then when we get to the kitty, depending on which your house rules are, the pot or the kitty, and then when we get to that 12th month, it's like we will give all 12 prizes away to one person along with our regular monthly prizes.
Wow, I like that idea. I think I'm sold on it.
All right,
I think we're there. We're there.
All right.
So
and for the first prize that I will put into the prize pot. What do we want to call it? Prize pot, prize kitty? Maybe we'll
the prize pot. Yeah,
the prize pot.
First, the showcase showdown.
First showcase.
All right. I'm gonna throw in a vintage 1970s Orange Bird yo-yo, still in the package.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So these have been. I have a number of these that I picked up in the early 1990s by going from Orange Grove roadside stand to Orange Grove roadside stand. And these have been selling on eBay from anywhere between $35 and $100. So this is not an insignificant little item to have.
Already the value of the package is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, that's right.
We're starting the new year.
That's right.
We should put a little counter on the website to show like what the value of the prize packages is we add to it each month. So yeah, so Orange Bird Yo-Yo.
There it is.
Your showcase showdown worth a grand total of.
Yeah, if you're the winner, you have to bid on it and tell us what you think it's worth, right? Well, there it is, everybody. So tune in next month where we will add a prize to the prize pack. And again, if you know the answer to this month's Audio Rewind, please get your answers in by January 11th, 2016. And you can email those answers to podcast@retrodisneyworld.com. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the last segment, Listener Memories. As you've heard us say before, we've set up a phone number where you, the listener, can leave us a short, under 3-minute message with your memory from Disney World's past years. The number is 978-71-RETRO. We got a couple calls this month, and let's take a listen.
Hello there. I'm the Dream Finder, and my little purple friend here is a figment of my imagination.
Figment for short.
You know, we've traveled all over the world collecting the stuff dreams are made of.
And you wouldn't believe all the dreams floating around out there during Christmas.
Oh, yeah, so many of them. You see, we fly through the air in my wonderful dream-catching machine, gathering sunbeams, rainbows, feathers, anything that sparks the imagination. And these last few weeks, we've been collecting the wonderful Christmas wishes our guests here at Epcot Center have been dreaming. And we store these marvelous ideas right here in the dream port.
Can we see them, Dream Finder?
Well, I don't know, Figment.
It is Christmas.
Well, why not? Let's see now. Where did I put those Christmas dreams? I know I left them around here someplace. Figment, look.
Wow! Oh, what about hurry?
Figment, calm down. Dreams are delicate things, especially Christmas dreams. You ready? Let's see what some of our Epcot Center guests wish for Christmas.
Hello, Retro Walt Disney World.
We are Becky.
And George Miranda.
Our podcast was about
our honeymoon at Walt Disney World on opening day.
We want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Bill from the Riverboats.
This is Glenn Simpson in Greenville, North Carolina, former Walt Disney World cast member from 1978 to 1989, and part of the opening crew of Epcot Center. wishing you and yours a magical Christmas and a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and season's greetings from WDWMap.com. I hope the winner of the WDW Map really enjoys it. Check WDWMap.com this holiday season for special discounts. It's a perfect gift for any Disney fan who has everything. Thanks a lot.
What about all the other dreams, Dreamfinder?
Well, some of them have already come true, Figment, and some we're just saving for our friend Santa until he needs them.
But will they keep?
Well, a dream never spoils, Figment, because every time you dream it, it becomes as new and fresh as the day it was born. So keep dreaming your dreams out there. We'll keep them safe here until they come true. And they will. Bye-bye. Say goodbye, Figment.
Goodbye, Figment.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for calling in and giving us some holiday greetings and wishes. So if you have a story or would like to just give us a message, give us a call at 978-71-RETRO. All right. So our sponsors, Ticket Mama, for all of your Orlando area ticket needs. Visit ticketmama.com for less than gate prices. And by Rental Car Mama, when renting in Orlando, visit rentalcarmama.com for discounts at Advantage Rental Car and other firms. And also by OrlandoVacation.com, vacation homes and discount hotels for the savvy Florida traveler. And also WWMap.com. Thanks, a big shout out to them for providing this year's big prize. And if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast at all, please email info@retrodisneyworld.com. Also to our listeners, obviously a big thank you, but if you can and you want to, we mentioned him earlier, give Bicentennial Ben a shout out on Twitter. His Twitter handle is Bicentennial, so that's Bison Tennial Ben. Give him a shout out and say hello. I'm sure he'll be glad to hear from all of us. And with that, as always, thank you very much to our listeners. Keep the emails and phone calls coming. We love hearing from you. If you give us an iTunes review if possible, that'd be great. Let your family and friends know about us. And before we have Brian take us out, he's got one more Christmas memory he's going to share with us.
We wish you all a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
So, where it all began and why I'm sitting here today, the scene is Christmas Eve, 1987. My grandmother and great aunt are here with my mom and dad, my brother and sister, and some of my aunts. And the shrimp cocktail is out on the coffee table, and we're each having our Coca-Cola or other beverage of choice. And Mom calls me and my brother and sister into the living room and says, okay, you have to come sit down. Now, this is not the kind of thing we ever do on Christmas Eve. We didn't open presents on Christmas Eve. She said, I have one present you all have to open. And so we were each handed a box. It looked like a typical garment box that you'd open and find a shirt or pair of pants. And we were told we all had to open it together, and so the three of us opened it together, and inside was an envelope from Collegeville Travel with a certificate inside of it, and you pulled it out, and it said, congratulations, Merry Christmas, you're going on a 3-night, 4-day trip to Walt Disney World, commencing in January 1988. I think it was about January 20th. I have the certificate still. I still have the envelope. There were brochures inside of it. I've scanned all those brochures in. But a month later, I made my first trek to Walt Disney World. And so that all occurred Christmas Eve, 1987. So inextricably linked for me is Christmas and Walt Disney World. So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everybody, and we'll see you next year.
This is ABC.